Hey guys, welcome to the In the Zone podcast. My name is Christian Noy, and I'm joined here with my co-host Ethan Switzer.
Uh,
And today on our agenda, we'll be talking about a few things. Number one, we're going to be doing a little bit of a recap of the Memorial Championship presented by Discraft, the amateur and pro event, and we'll be talking about how stacked the field is for the Santa Cruz Masters Cup this year. So we got a couple big things to talk about. Before we get into it, got a little bit of a message. This podcast is brought to you by DisZone. DisZone is the largest disc golf retailer in Santa Cruz, California, with a wide variety of discs from 15 different manufacturers and one of the lowest free shipping thresholds in the nation at $35.99. DisZone is the go-to spot to put the right disc in your hand. If you're listening to this message, you can get 5% off your next order when you use the code DZ Podcast, all caps. All you have to do is subscribe to our emails and use that code at checkout. But let's get started with the podcast. First, let's go over the memorial. Ethan Switzer, my co-host, was lucky enough to play in the amateur event. Uh,
yep,
how was it overall?
it was sick, man. The venue was really nice. When you got up to hole one, they announce your name, even if like any division, every card. So it was cool. Both days too.
Yeah, it's pretty
Um,
sick. And you got to play both Vista and Fountain Hills.
yeah, it was 2 rounds at Vista and 1 round, and those were like my first time ever playing those courses.
Yeah.
But
And how was it? Was it pretty tough, or how to play?
the track was pretty nice. I mean, it's a little bit different than most courses. You really didn't have to throw a tight line or anything. It was mostly just placement. You know, if you had a good enough placement off the tee, and it was all about the upshot. Because there's a lot of par fours that you can get. I mean, a birdie pretty easily if you just have a 350 to 400 foot shot off the tee, and then a good upshot, and then you're birdieing most of the holes. It really plays well for distance throwers because they do the XL layout at Vista. So I mean, it makes your upshot easier. And there's a couple water holes which I found really fun, especially when the wind kicked up. A lot of people messed up because they're either scared of going out of the water or like scared of the wind or whatever. But the second day I figured it out. The first day I got lucky on like hole 8, for example, with the wind. I like barely made it to the grass.
Damn.
But the second day I like put it 20 feet and made the birdie, so I was pretty stoked. But yeah, it's really fun. Fountain Hills is a little bit different. You can kind of be a lot more aggressive at Fountain Hills, in my opinion. Hole one starts off shorter than the pro tournament layout, which is the only difference, I think, than the pro layout at Fountain Hills. Um, Hole one, it's nice because it's right next to the water, but if you can pretty much be accurate enough to fly over the 10-foot island, essentially, that the hole's next to, I mean, you can putt for par if you go in the water with a 10-footer, which happened to me because I slipped on the first tee pad. But
Nice.
you got to watch out for some slippery tee pads. Um, but it was one of the most fun tournaments I played for a lot of reasons because I watched the pros on the video last year from the disc golf guy. I kind of see how the pros played it, and then had an idea of what types of shots I wanted to do because at Fountain Hills it was the first time. I mean, I flashed it for the tournament, so went 3 down, which was pretty decent. But I wish I could have capitalized on some of the easier par threes that are like less than 300 feet. But it is
Yeah.
what it is when there's like elevation changes and all that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, flashing it, and you ended up finishing in eighth place, right?
Yeah, T8th.
Yeah, pretty baller. I mean, it's tough out there to flash those courses. I mean, on camera, like you mentioned, the disc golf guy. I mean, it looks easier. Like a lot of dudes call it the Heiser Olympics, but it's like,
Yeah,
I mean, you gotta have the placement shots, like you said. I mean, it looks crazy. So you should be proud of that.
yeah.
Pretty
I
baller.
mean, it's not too tight. It's just those placement. Don't go in the water. Don't go B. You'll be
Oh,
winning at least
totally.
half.
How many OB shots you got?
I've shot like 4 the first day, and then 5 the next day, and then 2 the next day.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, that's
I mean,
probably like the most OB comparative to like
11, yeah. It was just
most.
dumb because I really wanted to get like the 450 shots, which kind of risked me. Like I was trying to hyzer flip over the out of bounds, and the wind kind of just carried it most of the time. So I just needed to play a little safer and take off some distance because you don't need a ton. I mean, you only need like 350 to 400, and then you just do the same shot to
Yeah.
your up shot. So
Yeah, that makes sense. And then another thing I wanted to ask is a lot of pros were talking about how especially Vista has like a lot of elevated baskets. So it's putting like kind of hard out there. Was it windy?
the first day was windy, and I mean I was a little nervous too for the first day, but it was tough to putt in the wind because you don't want to go like super far. I mean the baskets are like 6 feet tall, so
Totally.
it made it a lot tougher for some of the ones that you wanted to park. Like you have to park it a little bit. So even at Fountain Hills, there was a couple that were lifted, and it definitely made it harder to putt in those situations. But I think it was just all about the upshots. Like the putting was, you need to be putting like always, but I felt like it was mostly that upshot that was most important.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you can see it on camera. It's like you don't got the. It's like I guess if you have 500 feet of power, you can on those par fours it'll be like easy to do the upshot. If you got like the 450, it's like that extra 50 to 100 feet makes it kind of hard. So yeah, it makes sense. Um, Now we can kind of get into the pro event. First things first, Gannon Buhr. I mean, dude came back, had a pretty bad first round from what I remember. I think he ended up shooting like only 7 down, which is like pretty good at Fountain Hills, but it's like I think AB was like 13 down or something like that after the first round. So, and then he like kept fighting back. Yeah, it says after the first round, he was, yeah, I believe 7 or he was 8 down. So he was 5 back. And then after the second round, he was 3 back. And I think he was still three, or I think he was 4 back after the third
It
round.
was 4 back the whole time. It seemed like.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then like all of a sudden, dude was just like beast mode last round, 13 down, no
Booty, booty,
bogey,
booty.
1,084 rated. I mean, it's pretty crazy. And like to be able to shoot like 1,023 rated, which is like kind of crazy to say that that's low for Gannon, which is like still such a high rating. But then be down and then on the last back nine, just like I'm just gonna birdie out and then shoot 1,084 rated and beat AB, Ezra, Ricky at their home course. I mean, that's just crazy.
I
So
mean, any course he's going to, it's like he's smacking them.
yeah, it's weird, and it's like weird to see. Like it's their home course, and dude could just like be like, I'm just gonna show up, play a couple rounds, and I'm just gonna dominate you guys. It's like,
Yeah.
so I don't know. What do you think? You think Gannon Burr is gonna just smack it at this year,
Dude,
2020?
I'm putting my money on Gambler this year. I mean, based on last year, it's just crazy. I mean, he won like 7 tour events or something like that. And I mean, based on his first tournament, I mean, he's 3-time back-to-back champion for
Yeah,
Memorial. So obviously he knows how to do well here. But it's interesting, like when you shoot a bad round, to Gannon, which is like the 7 down. What's your mindset after you or in 17th place, I think it was, or something.
yeah,
I was looking on Instagram. I saw a video of him at the disc golf expo, and he was saying like after he shoots, or if something feels bad or shoots wrong, um, he immediately finishes after his round. He'll just like immediately try to work on it, fix it for the next day, which I thought was interesting. Like, I mean, it makes sense, but maybe some people want to relax and like feel better about themselves, but it seems you want to just like immediately train.
Yeah, totally. That's kind of like a almost like a super elite mindset. Like you're like stubborn and you really want to iron out like any problems that you may have had during the round. I mean, that's pretty crazy. Like if you have bad putting, you're like, oh, I'm just gonna putt a bunch. But that's pretty cool to hear from him. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it was like on some guy's story, so
That's pretty
it
sick.
might come out. I don't know.
Yeah. And then I guess another question is like, I'm always curious. I wonder why. I guess we could talk specifically about Memorial, but like why he's so good there. I mean, you played the course, so you know the shots. It's like,
I played in front of him
yeah, I know. You
on my
played in front
practice
of him during
round.
the practice round. That's crazy.
Yeah, so I was
So,
watching him throw on him. He throws like five a hole or something.
yeah, dang.
I just saw his FD like flying by me. I was like, "That's Gannon Buhr's this."
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. It's surreal to see that.
Yeah, he looks way taller in person.
Dang.
But
Yeah. Yeah. I like you mentioned, yeah, I think you need like 450 power to like score pretty well there or feel comfortable.
no, you only need 400.
You only need 400. Yeah. So I guess
It's like I said, I mean, if you're accurate enough with like a 350, 350, so your up shots are 350,
yeah.
I mean, that's 700 feet. That's going to cover most of the holes there.
Hmm.
Some of them I think are like 800, but like hole 7, for example,
Yeah.
it's kind of like a hyzer flip off the tee or like a really nice controlled hyzer shot. Um, but you have to stick an island on your upshot.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
So a lot of people mess that up, especially in the wind. And if you're on the left side, it kind of cuts it off a little bit. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's an example of kind of how the upshot plays into that course. And I think Gannon Buhr just has that control of placement. And if he's in the circle, I mean, he's making the putt. I mean, he's the best, one of the best putters on tour. So,
Yeah. I mean, for sure. It's interesting because we've talked about this before. I mean, like Gannon's got, I always say this, he's got like every shot, seems like. He's got the flex shot, the stall shot, hyzer flip. It's like forehand,
yeah,
hyzer flip forehand, flex forehand. It's like, dude literally has every shot in the game. And so obviously that'll apply to every course. But even at Memorial, when you have like all of the space in the world, you could just be like, oh, yeah, I could just do whatever I'm best at. And whatever that line fits, I'm going to do that. So,
I think he picks the highest percentage shot.
right.
Kind of like how Ricky was talking about some of his videos. Like you pick your highest percentage shot that's not going to cause you a stroke and has the highest chance of getting you a birdie, even if it's not like the easiest. It's kind of interesting how you choose what the highest percentage shot is, though.
Totally. I
You
mean,
got
for
to do that for
everybody else, it's different.
practice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy to think about that. It's like, and since he's so good at every shot, like, even if he's thinking like something that may not be as the highest percentage, it's like still can be executed. Yeah. I mean, you brought that up a bunch, like executing, like when the shot comes in, you got to execute. And it just seems like Gannon Buhr is just good at executing. And that's
Yeah,
why he's the number one player in the world, I guess. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy to see like how good he did it or how well he played at Memorial. But
he's only going to get better the more he plays these
oh,
same tournaments. You know, like he's been on the tour for I don't know how many years now, but he's going to get used to all these layouts and keep playing better and better because the courses don't really. There's not too many other courses being added to the tour. Um, and like going back to the high percentage shot he was talking about on last year's coverage of the Memorial at Vista,
mhm.
like hole 5, for example, is that double mando at the very end,
Yep, yep.
and he just lays it up right before it for just like a possible chance at birdie, but mostly just for an easy layup for par. And I mean, you see like AB went for it and he missed the mando, and then you could miss the putt. I mean, he did miss the putt, but
So,
I was
yeah,
like, that can be just a stroke leaked right there, and that can matter in the end. So some of those decisions I think are important when you do your practice rounds. Um, And I think it's nice being a pro, being able to spend a week at a course, uh, instead of just like maybe even only one day there to try it out.
For
It
sure.
helps playing those tournaments every year and kind of going back on what you've done before and then maybe what you could improve on, um, and building off other pros too. I think that kind of helps with who you play with.
Yeah,
If your buddies with
totally.
Ricky and hanging out with him, so I'm sure he gives them some advice and they're all talk about strategy, I guess. But that's just what I assume.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up, especially with the like laying up and like knowing when to attack the course. And I mean, obviously he can if he wanted to, but making that high percentage play is like the reason why he's number one in the world. And it's interesting how he's like it seems it's weird because he's 19 years old, but he feels like he's a veteran almost, like he's done this so many times before, and it's like he doesn't really have an ego laying up because like obviously we all know he could probably birdie that hole, but it's like you want to save the most amount of strokes you can for like the tournament, so he's just going to lay it up every single time. So I feel like some other guys probably struggle with that. Not saying that AB Ezra or anybody else we mentioned struggles with that, but it could be a factor in why he's better than some other top pros. I mean, it's true. But yeah. Besides Gannon Buhr, I kind of want to talk about some other dudes that impressed me. I had a couple dudes in mind. Number one was Eagle McMahon. He didn't really have a good first round, especially when he was on coverage with that disc golf guy. I think he shot like seven-ish down, like seven down. And at first, I was like, man, this guy is not playing as well as I thought he would be playing. I mean, he mentioned that he may have had back problems, which he clarified in his recap video. But still, I was kind of like, man, he just like doesn't look that good. But then over the course of the tournament, I was like, wow, he's like actually, it felt like he hit his stride and was like shooting really hot rounds. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he shot, I believe it was, yeah, seven down the first round, which was 1,013 rated, so pretty low. Nine down the second round, which was 1,034. Nine down at Vista, which was 1,060. And then 11 down the final round, which was 1,067. And I feel like,
Yes.
yeah, it's crazy scores or crazy rated rounds. But I think he ended up getting fourth place. So, I mean, it's pretty solid finish against such a stacked field. And I feel like not only did his throwing improve, it seems like this guy's putting, especially his circle two putting. Uh, I recently watched like an Anthony Bedanza video where they played the where it was like circle one was out of bounds. So basically, you wanted to throw to outside the circle and then make your putt from circle two.
Okay.
And dude just like doesn't miss from just edge of circle. And it seems like he proved that at Fountain Hills during his recap video. He made like so many circle two putts. It felt like it was like four or five around. And I feel like if he keeps that up, he'll definitely be a pretty strong contender this year. So that was pretty impressive to me. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if your up shots aren't good enough to get you in the circle, I mean, and you can make up with those circle two putts, I mean, it doesn't matter, you know,
It's true.
it
Yeah.
saves a lot of strokes. And I think it has to do with a little bit of your will to fight at the end. If you have a really strong like fighter mentality, I think like Gannon kind of has that too, where he might be down and just maybe focuses harder or something. I would like to know, but it's interesting, like even in a lot of sports, like the more you're willing to just keep trying and not give up and just like work harder at it, um, tends to yield like really good results when you're trying to catch up with someone. And I think Eagle McMahon might have had that, or he just felt better physically and wanted to prove himself at the last round, shoot the best he could. I think he was just disappointed in maybe how he's feeling and wanted to just prove to himself that he could shoot a 1,067 round. I mean, that's pretty amazing. So,
I mean, yeah, most definitely. I feel like it's that never die mentality, like never give up.
mhm.
And if you keep that mentality, I mean, mental, it seems like is definitely a huge factor in disc golf because all these guys are capable of winning. It's just whether or not you can execute, believe in yourself, and then like just get the job done essentially. So
Yeah.
like I feel like if Eagle can keep it together this year, hopefully he can get a win. I mean, it seems like he didn't really do too well. I mean, he might have had a few strong finishes to end the year, but I think, yeah, I think at Worlds he finished pretty strong. But I think he should be sitting pretty good this year if he keeps it up. Another dude that caught my eye was surprisingly Parker Welk. I think he recently signed with Dynamic Discs. So I kind of didn't really expect too much from him. It seemed like when he was throwing this last season, when he was on DGA, it seems like things didn't really click for him. And I didn't really see him finish too strong. So even though it's his home course and he plays these courses, I don't know how many times a week, I found it still pretty impressive that he could just show up with a new bag and still end up getting sixth in such a stacked field. I think he ended up, yeah, sixth place. So although he's 11 strokes off Gannon, I mean, he was only a couple strokes off Ricky and 5 strokes off Eagle. So he had a couple really hot rounds too. I think he shot 1,074 rated, 13 down at Fountain Hills. And so, yeah, I think that was the only other dude that I found pretty impressive. But I think if he keeps it up too, he might do something good this year. Do you find anybody else surprising or
I
anything?
thought Parker Welk is interesting because in a lot of his commentary on the coverage for Memorial, it seemed like he knew what to do on every hole. You know what I mean? Like he describes like the different options and how he was feeling during each hole, which I thought was really interesting. Um, and I think that'd be kind of cool for some videos that might come out in the future is like pros mindset during a lot of the holes they play. It's interesting to know kind of what they're thinking in the moment, and the strategy that they're going through for that particular hole. But Parker Welk, Parker Welk is doing pretty well at these Arizona courses, and I hope to see him throughout the rest of the tour this year.
Yeah, that was a good point you bring up with pros, like breaking down court holes and courses as a whole. It's like those Ricky videos that came out this year seemed super popular. They're probably getting tons of views because it's like when you dissect a hole so well, it's like so intriguing for the disc golfer and just a competitive disc golfer in general, like how to become better disc golf, better decision making, what kind of shots you need to execute. And yeah, I found that kind of cool as well. So I hopefully guys like Parker Welk and Ricky and Gannon and even Ezra and Anthony like start maybe doing more videos like that or just like commentating on video coverage to so
Mm-hmm.
kind of help us low rated disc golfers out.
I need it. Come on,
Yeah, please.
let me know.
Yeah. Besides that, I don't think anybody else was super. I wasn't like super surprised by the result. I mean, Ezra Aderhold with the second, which was pretty good for comparative to how he played last year. But since it's his home course, I figured he would do really well. I mean, still to shoot 39 down, get second place against such a stacked field, pretty impressive. Anthony Brella also tied second. And then Ricky with the fifth. I don't think there was anybody else that we that was surprising or that we even knew that competed. Did you know anybody that was competing in the pro or even MA1?
Let me think. I'd have to look at the scores.
Yeah, I don't know of anybody else really. I mean, there's a lot of familiar names, but regardless, I think it was a pretty good. Yeah, regardless, yeah, I don't think I see anybody else. So, yeah, that kind of about does it for the memorial, unless you want to talk about anything else.
No, yeah.
Sweet. Yeah. So, next thing to talk about on the podcast is the Santa Cruz Masters Cup. And for
Oh,
those of
yeah.
you that don't know, Santa Cruz Masters Cup is was obviously a former Pro Tour event. It is definitely the biggest event in the I mean Bay Area for sure, but maybe arguably Northern California for the year. Um, and the reason I bring it up is because this year the field is looking quite stacked. Some names to mention: Gannon Buhr, #1 player in the world; Ezra Robinson, Andrew Marweed, Gavin Babcock, Matt Bell, Andrew Miranda, Noah Mindsema, Paul Kranz, Connor Rock, Alden Harris. I mean, the names go on. It seems like I believe there's 13, 14 actual Pro Tour players that have signed up, maybe even more. And especially when you have the #1 player in the world sign up for your a tournament that's in your backyard, kind of gets you excited. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously last year Ezra Robinson signed up. He was one of definitely a good handful of Pro Tour players that competed, and I think maybe that might have sparked a few more people, including Gannon Buhr, to sign up. Some other pretty popular names that are on the local level. We got Manny Torres and Avi Gomez. Those guys are local 1,015 rated pros. So we'll see. This tournament's looking pretty stacked. We also got Ethan Switzer and Christian Oy. So
Yeah. Get in
looking
there.
pretty stacked on the bottom end of the list there too. So
Yeah, about to be the top. Don't worry about
about to be the top five come May. But
it.
yeah, so I'm kind of excited. They announced that it's going to be an 18 hole layout, which is different compared to previous years. Even last year, I believe it was 24 holes, and they switched the positions from longs the first day and shorts the last day. And they even played at Pinto Lake, which is a course in Watsonville, just 30 minutes south of De La Vega. And so having an 18 round or 3 rounds of 18 holes at only De La Vega, it's sure to be pretty good competition. So kind of excited. Um, and like I mentioned, that's going to be your first MPO event. How are you feeling about that? Are you excited?
I mean, it's a good one to start out with, I think. I mean, like you said, all those top pros are going to be there. It's interesting that this year and they're doing the 18 hole layout, so it'll be more just straight up old school par three. They say De La is, you know, a really tough par three course. I mean, built in 1986, established. So, I mean, it doesn't have the kind of the pro tour level distance that you need. It's a lot of tricky lines that you have to get right and can have some bad reactions with some of the roots and trees and just hills they have out there too. I mean, it's pretty tough. I play there a ton. We started there, so I'm pretty comfortable with a lot of the holes. I know what to do on a lot of them, so I'm feeling pretty confident going into the tournament, even though I haven't played there in a while. But I'm excited for sure.
Yeah, I have to say I'm quite excited myself. Especially, I'm even excited that's an 18 hole layout. So kind of gives guys like us a chance to maybe get a hot round in and maybe get a chance to get on coverage. Although unlikely, at least it's better possibility. Um, and then another thing I want to talk about was like early predictions. Who you think is
Gannon.
next question? Gannonburg. Yeah,
Maybe
Gannonburg.
Ezra.
Gannon Buhr is definitely has won it before in 2022. The last time he played it in 2023, though, he ended up getting seventh place. I mean, yeah, seven. Ezra Robinson as well. Anybody else you think has a chance to win?
Mm, Andrew Miranda,
Yep. Yep.
and he's shown that he can shoot pretty well there. Big distance thrower too. On some of them, they're pretty far. I mean, the farther you can throw a de la to, it kind of helps. If you can throw a 400-foot shot with maximum control, I mean, you're going to do well.
I
Um,
mean, yeah.
yeah, I'm excited to see how those guys do, especially on the 18-hole layout, because I feel like that's a little bit, you got to be clean with it on an 18.
I mean, yeah,
Less
you're
holes to make up with, but less holes to play too. So it's kind of interesting.
yeah, that's totally true. With 18 holes, I mean, you got to execute your shots. And if you end up getting a bad hole, it's going to be hard to climb back, especially with that all par threes, even with I-5. I mean, it's like you better hope you don't get day-lawed. No
Yeah.
rollways, no nothing. Yeah, for me, for my predictions, yeah, can't go wrong with Gannon Buhr, Ezra Robinson. Obviously, Ezra Robinson, current and reigning champion. Some other names, like you said, Andrew Miranda, and then some two names that probably wouldn't get discussed much by people outside the Bay Area or outside Santa Cruz area. Definitely Manny Torres and Aviel Gomez. I mean, those guys are, it's crazy. I mean, when you play with them so often, you could see like they just know De La so well. And so this is, if there's anybody that's going to make a splash in this tournament, it's definitely them. I mean, so I'm kind of hoping for some exciting stuff to happen come Masters Cup.
Yeah, I hope they do well. I mean, they play there a bunch, so I'm really excited to see how they stack up against, people like Gannon and Ezra and Gavin Babcock and all of them.
For sure.
How many 1,000 rated players are there?
Yeah, let's take a look. I mean, there's quite a few. Let me do the counting. I think there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 20, 29.
Nine.
Over 1,000 rated dudes. I mean, that is insanely stacked. If I looked back to last year, I'm pretty sure. I mean, it was quite stacked last year, but I don't even think there was that many 1,000 rated pros. Let's see. I think last year there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 13. So less than half of the field was, or less than half. So
And what it is
13
this year?
comparative to 29. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, this although we haven't been playing disc golf for that long, I feel like this is definitely one of the more stacked fields ever at De La. I mean, definitely back in when it was on the Pro Tour in like 2022 and 20 and prior, it was probably way more stacked. But in recent years, this is definitely going to be one of the more stacked tournaments. So excited for that. But besides that, that kind of ends it for me here. Anything else we want to talk about? Anything cool?
Is this zone going to be at Masters Cup?
This zone is going to be a Masters Cup. I'm not sure if we're going to be at the Masters Cup for the pro weekend, but we will definitely be there for the amateur weekend the following weekend. And so you can catch us out there. We'll have a booth out there most likely. I got to talk to some of the guys, but I'm sure we'll be out there and we'll be happy to support and sponsor the event. So, yeah.
Sounds sick.
But besides that, kind of wraps up this podcast. This is the first of the In the Zone podcast of hopefully many. We'll be publishing these probably once a week. And yeah, just covering some maybe news that won't be covered on other podcasts. So more local news or just bigger events that don't seem to be covered by other podcasts. And yeah, that's about it though. Anything else you want to say, Ethan?
Yeah, I mean, if any of your viewers have any suggestions, we really appreciate any topics you might want to have us cover. Maybe some discs and technology of discs. I love talking about discs in general, but yeah, leave a comment.
For sure. Yeah, definitely leave a comment. We'll be happy to cover anything disc golf related. We would love to discuss that, especially if it's local or even on an international level. But yeah, besides that, that kind of does it for this podcast. Thanks to Ethan for co-hosting. And
Yep,
oh,
thank you.
also, last thing. If you are interested in joining the podcast, make sure you send me an email or an Instagram message, this zone. I'll put it all links in the bio to support Ethan Switzer. Anything they can do to support you. Want to maybe follow you on
Oh, support
Instagram?
me? I don't know. Look out for me on some tournaments.
Yeah, I'll put everything in the link below. You can support us. But thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one. See you.
All right, thanks.